We're live.
We're live.
What's up,
Hi.
guys? We're in portrait mode.
We're in portrait mode. Sorry, I don't.
Our faces barely fit in the screen at the same time.
We have to go vertical. Here, I'll go low. You go high. Like that.
What's up,
I
everybody?
can't find the charger for my computer, so we're going on the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X, I guess. I'll say
10.
low. It is 10. iPhone X10.
X is Roman numerals for 10. They're not teaching Roman numerals anymore.
Mm-mm.
That's
I
sad.
know them though.
I do too. I like them.
Did you take Latin?
I did, actually.
I took Latin too.
Nice.
Oh, we just learned something new about each other.
I only learned it once they cut my French program when I was halfway through it, though.
Oh my gosh, hardcore.
I was really bummed.
That's a real bummer.
Yeah, it was sad.
Oh.
But it's, my mom was like, yeah, Latin will make you better at English because the roots of all the words, and you'll do great on the SATs. Shout out to Mom. That's not really how she talks.
Shout out to Mom. It's on the internet forever now.
I know, I'm the worst. No, that was sound advice.
Yes.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
I got great SAT scores because
Okay.
of that. Anyway, welcome back to the Artist Way cluster. We're moving right on along. I hope you are and feeling good, doing some or all of the things. And do share. We'll continue to solicit you for your input if you would like to share any of what you are experiencing through this process. But yeah, to start, we'll check in with how the previous week went. So, Jenny, how are your morning pages?
I did 5 out of 7.
Nice.
I didn't do all of the morning pages that day, so I had some abbreviated days, but I attempted every 5 out of 7 times.
That seems to be your magic number.
I don't know. Maybe I had to have a block. I do.
Is it the weekends?
Normally it's the weekends, but I think I did do it on the weekends. But I feel like I was like, oh, I've already done it 5 times, so I'm gonna not do it today. I feel like
so that is your number.
Maybe that
You're
is my
getting
number.
Stuck on that number.
But I did actually create some art though.
That's
this
even
time.
better.
Yeah.
Because really, that's the point, right?
Yeah, and I created my art actually using some of the advice brought up today, which had become dormant within me, helped me to redirect it into my experience. I'm excited that we're getting into that.
Yeah, we'll start talking about the next week's chapter, which has some really juicy stuff in it very soon. Let's see, there's more to this question.
Did you do your... Oh, there is more.
There were... Oh, she's asking, what were you surprised to find yourself writing about? Answer this question in full on your check-in page. This will be a weekly self-scan of your moods, not your progress. So yeah, I guess just noting if there was a theme in your pages or what things you didn't expect to have come bubbling up that did. Just something to think about.
I noticed I was trying to rationalize other people's behavior a lot. And then on that rational train, I started planning out my day. I was like, I am upset by this thing. But I think the reason why this happens is because this person was feeling this way. Now, what am I going to do in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Did you do your artist date, Sarah?
I did. So last week we scheduled it live.
Did it work?
It did, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the best artist date I've ever had.
But you did it.
But I ate my breakfast outside in the woods by the little creek in the back of my house, which was good because actually I've not spent a lot of time outside this week because we've been in rehearsal for everything and just I've been going home late at night and just not getting
wonderful.
outside. So that was really refreshing. And
that's such a good artist date and a really great way to build it into your actual daily routine.
Right, gotta eat.
Yeah, you gotta eat. That's so smart, to attach a human necessity with your artist date.
Yeah, it might be cheating, I'm not sure.
No, but what if you wanted to see a fancy place, so you're like, I'm going to go into a fancy building and use their bathroom because I have to go to the bathroom.
Gotta
and then like you just spent like 20 minutes like checking out the beautiful vanity mirrors and the gilded stuff in like the Jefferson bathroom.
Yeah, that is a great artist date idea.
And it's connected with something that you already have to do.
You have to poop, so you might as well poop in a fancy toilet.
Exactly.
And make it a date.
Exactly.
You heard it here, folks.
This is your advice right now. I think I have a sunburn. I didn't know until I looked in the...
Maybe you're just embarrassed from talking about poop.
No, I actually mowed the yard today. Oh, yes. The yard, we had grass in the backyard that was 2 feet tall.
Wow.
And today I mowed it down because it was finally dry. That was a little bit of my, like, eventually we'll get into this, but like doing small things to dedicate yourself or to help, like, I guess, level out the back of your mind and eventually do art. You can sometimes just have to, like, clean something or organize something, and it helps out with the artistic process. But I did that today. I did the thing, but I burned.
Yeah. Gotta put that sunscreen on, girl.
No, I need all of it.
Okay, so that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to share about your experience, please do. But we're moving on to week 3. We're covering a sense of power.
Power.
Take it away, Ginny.
Okay. So this week starts off with discussing anger. And I think this was a really impactful chapter and week in the book and really hit me home. I really like what she says, that anger shows us what our boundaries are. And it's really true. Like, when you get angry, to step back and realize, okay, why am I angry? Well, because someone's doing this to me. It's like, well, what do I need that I'm not getting from this, then that's causing my anger, which is very hard to do when you are angry. But when you're doing that counting down from 10 and stepping back and thinking, that's like such a great skill. And that in the recovery of a blocked artist, anger is the sign of health, which is like such a good way to see it. Like, it's a really big point. You're alive. You're active, you're not apathetic. Apathy is so much worse than anger, in my mind. Like, if you're angry about something, you know what you want, or you can find out what you want, and then you're closer to finding out who you are. And then, really, I mean, I'm going to probably cross-stitch this onto a pillow, and it will be passed down through the generations in my future family, but anger is meant to be acted upon. It is not meant to be acted out. Like,
important, such an important distinction.
Oh my gosh, it's always like the simple stuff that's the best stuff. Like, this is such a simple indicator, and I'm sure any empathetic parent probably has taught this lesson, and a lot of people already know these words, but I didn't know it this way, that anger is meant to be acted upon, not acted out. It was really struck home for me. And then one other thing I liked from this section is, and she ends with this here, is anger is not the action itself, it is the action's invitation. So just considering how anger can really help us figure out and direct our energy towards what we want, and then productivity wise, and especially in the art world, we experience so much anger that's kind of also tied with jealousy. And it definitely, like, and it's the kind of anger that you become shame, like, to later on. Like, I feel mad that I'm this angry and jealous. And it's just a real indicator that maybe something isn't right. And then that's what your attention should be focused on.
Yeah,
For sure.
not on the actions of the other people, but on what is pointing you towards for yourself. Yeah, what you need to do for yourself.
Yeah, what maybe this is actually, if you want another book to read, there's a really great book called Boundaries that my friend Kylan, who sometimes watches these videos, recommended, and it impacts me so much still today. And it's a big thing of, like, anger, boundaries, the idea of hurt versus harm. That when you're resetting a boundary and really figuring out what you need, it might hurt someone in the moment, but they'll heal from it and get better later on, versus not setting that boundary could lead to something explosive that would actually harm the relationship. So sometimes it's better just to be clear and cut, and then, like, early on, rather than putting your feelings aside and just allowing a negative situation to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really difficult if it's been continuing for a very long time. But but this is such good. The next section, Sarah, is wonderful.
So we have mentioned this previously a little bit because it's one of our favorite parts of this process is synchronicity. This is something, so if you're not familiar with that word, because I realize not everybody actually knows and uses that word on a regular basis like I do. I had some friends be like, what does that mean exactly? It's basically when things are happening that align with the work that you're doing. You see that almost immediately or at the right time reflected back to you from the external world. Where the timing seems like divine, and it's one of those just crazy what other people might call a coincidence, right? But it's actually not. When you start to actively create and call in those alignments, there's no coincidence. I mean, the more it happens, I wouldn't say I'm not surprised by it anymore because it still surprises me and excites me. But after that initial, like, are you serious moment, I'm like, of course, like, of course I called that in, like, I wrote that down and now it's happening, of course, of course. So I think the most important thing at this stage, if this is a new concept to you, or if your resistance is like, nope, that's not true, that is you wishful thinking or projecting, or you're just noticing those things more, fine. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. Don't believe me because I said so. Just start to entertain the possibility of synchronicity and keep your eyes open for it. And when you see it, if you are journaling about a certain topic and then that somebody brings that topic up to you later in another conversation, for instance, or you turn on the radio or a podcast and they're talking about that very thing that you were writing about, or you had an image come to you that you were writing about and then you see that image online, those types of things, just actually pay attention, and even better, write it down, because I know it was happening to me a lot throughout the process, but I was pretty bad about writing it down at first, and so we would come to the end of the week and try to check in and be like, what crazy thing happened? And I'd be like, so much, I don't remember. So don't be me. Write it down.
Also, I think I remember about this process, I started using tarot cards actually in my daily practice. And that's where it became even clearer. But that's just like one of a million methods. Or in order to maybe design synchronicity into your day, and actually doing that at the beginning of the day helped me to see it throughout. In the same way people looking up their horoscope at the beginning of the day, and it can really start to see signs let out. And I would say synchronicity probably helped me connect back to the concept of spirituality again in a major way. And my roots are, I was raised Catholic, and one huge part of it is the signs, and I think that's where I started connecting to my younger self in a way, in that there are signs laid out for you to help you guide yourself in the way you want to go in your own divine direction. And that's how I interpreted it, and that's definitely a cultural interpretation, but it did help with that connection for me in this like young spiritual self.
And we were talking about this before when we were talking about the spirituality of this process, and some of the rationalization that can come forward about, that's just you projecting that onto the things in your environment. Great. So what synchronicity, if that's the case, again, I don't believe anything in particular. I entertain possibilities. So entertaining that possibility that, yes, it's just me actually seeing things differently because I'm projecting that out. That's what I want to be seeing. What synchronicity, if that's the case, tells me is that I am feeling like I am on track. And that's good confirmation to me that everything within me is feeling aligned whether or not it's me being aligned with the external world doesn't actually matter. And I think that line starts to get blurry, which is good. You know, synchronicity, however you want to rationalize it or think about it, feels fucking good. It feels really good. It feels like a big fat yes from deep inside, and deep inside, outside. Maybe think about those as one in the same thing. You don't need to make that distinction.
And it can scare you, that yes. Like, oh my gosh, is this really? Oh my gosh, now I have to, like...
Right, that's what she says. Answered prayers are scary.
Yeah, answered prayers are so scary.
They imply responsibility. Yeah, so you call it in, you write it down, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do, and then the doors start opening. Are you brave enough to walk through them?
I hope you are. We are.
Better get ready, get set.
We'll help you. We'll support you on the way.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, you'll start to realize the clearer you are, the smoother this will go. You got to be careful what you wish for to a certain degree, but also, you know, part of this process is giving you the strength. It's preparing you to actually walk through those doors, because I think it's easier to do that when it's super obvious that you are the one who opened them, you know? Then it's like, how can you not? You asked for it.
Yeah.
Here it is.
And then it also can help you to redesign what you actually want, too, when you actually try that thing that you've been wanting. And then
maybe it's not what you thought.
But the doors have opened and you have been answered, that you can actually have the freedom to experiment with something that might have not been it might have not been reachable before.
Or
not felt reachable. That's a better way to say it, for sure.
Because that's the whole thing, is you just realize that there's not nearly as many limitations as you've been led to believe by your own inner critic, by external critics, by parents, by people who have their own agenda for keeping you where you are. And that can even be the people who love you the most. And, you know, we don't want to judge them for having an agenda. We all have that. But you just need to get really clear about what is yours and what is theirs, and continue to listen first and foremost to what is coming from you. And these tools are tuning your ear to yourself to hear that voice more loudly than everybody else's voice.
I always think it's totally appropriate to say, like, I love that you cared for me enough to try and help me go in what you thought was the right direction. But I respect and love you for that, you know, but I have my own direction. And then you don't have to say that to them, but if you say that in your mind, like, it can help with that separation line.
Which I think is a great segue into the next section.
Shame. Once again, my culture comes back out again with this one. And I think she starts off by saying shame is a controlling device. And I think that it is hugely used, and I can't imagine a culture that doesn't use shame in some form or fashion. I'm sure there's one that exists, but it is that feeling that you are for sure doing something wrong, or that you don't deserve something, or it's that internal guilt that is kind of connected with shame, for sure. And it's definitely just be aware when someone is shaming you. I know I've done that to people before, and I had to be made aware of. And that's a lesson and a gift in itself, is when you realize that you're doing it to someone else. But also be aware when it's happening to you and what you're feeling. She goes in the bottom of this page to say that the act of making art exposes a society to itself. Art brings things to light. It illuminates us. Oh, the dog just made it in. Sorry.
Wow. How did you do that?
He just had it. He pushed it open.
Oh,
he's here.
Hi.
Okay, excuse me. I'm going to.
Do you want to continue? I can.
Okay, you're gonna guide him out.
Come on.
Oh, look at that. That's
That's
some stubbornness. Go up.
Come
Go
on,
to bed, Barney. Go to bed. He heard shame and he had something to say. Good boy. Go to bed.
love you.
We'll see you in a minute. Yeah.
I'm impressed. I thought that was Kevin.
I know.
So
I did too.
clearly.
He's a strong boy. He can open things, but sometimes he accidentally closes himself into places too. So the shame definitely drags on for a bit in this chapter, just like it does in real life. But I would say when you are doing your writing, this tends to come out a lot. When are you shaming yourself?
Mm-hmm.
When are you feeling like you're ready to almost die? Like that she actually puts in those words there. Being aware of that will help you to direct where you need to heal. It's an indicator just as much as anger is an indicator. Like when you are being shamed, what is controlling you? And often you can find a root to that too. Of when's the first time you felt bad about that? Okay, so you want to do the next one?
Dealing with criticism. So
shame is a tool.
yeah, I was reading that in the shame section too, where she makes the distinction that not all criticism is shaming, and usually the way that you tell the difference is that when somebody gives you criticism that feels true, when you recognize that that is something that you really can and want to improve on, you'll feel that. It'll be this kind of, she says, an internal aha, right? Where you're like, yeah, it shows the artist a new and valid path for work. So you'll feel that kind of gratitude for that external kind of aid in improving. The criticism that damages is that which disparages, dismisses, ridicules, or condemns. It is frequently vicious but vague and difficult to refute. This is the criticism that damages. So, yeah, that's vague criticism is the worst. All criticism should be specific and something that can actually be improved on, like, within a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
It's not like you just need to be better. Obviously, if you're a practicing artist, you will be eventually if you continue to practice. That's not helpful criticism. Like, just be better.
Yeah,
or
just like
you're not good enough.
Totally, just like in the same way in any art field, you can tell someone like your positives that you see in any work. And then you can also tell them like, hey, this seems weak right here. Like this seems like you can rework this area. Like maybe diving in more, pushing this more, giving strategies for sure. You know good criticism versus good criticism when you hear it, when you actually learn from it.
But it doesn't always make it easier to hear.
No, it doesn't.
So that's what this section is talking about too. Is your artist is a child, like we've been talking about. So you gotta kind of hold their hand through the feedback process sometimes.
And sometimes slowing it down too, right? Like saying, I want feedback, but just not right now. Like some friends will offer you that and say like, I do want this eventually, but not right after I've performed.
Yeah, definitely stand up for yourself to refute unsolicited criticism. But, she has some rules of the road in here. There's 9 of them. I won't read them all, but I'll just leave you with the last one, which is to get back on the horse, make an immediate commitment to doing something creative. Creativity is the only cure for criticism. So the sooner the better, right? If you feel that blow, like, ouch, that felt bad, and the longer you let it keep you from doing the work, I feel like the deeper and more solid the block becomes, the harder it will be to break through it eventually. So
it becomes another excuse too, like,
oh yeah,
like, oh, I really screwed up that last routine, so I'm just going to not work on dance for a while. And we have these blocks too, like, oh my gosh, that show did not go well, maybe I should just step out of this. And then that shame clicks in, like, maybe I don't deserve to be here, which I definitely deal with. And the imposter syndrome, I think, is tied in with that shame too. Like, maybe I don't belong in here after all. And I deal with that, I think, a lot.
I
think we all do, right? And it's probably scary when you don't deal with it. What does that mean?
You're a narcissist?
I don't know. I mean, the ideal is to fully belong and feel like you fully need to be there one day. That's the ideal. but I think
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that is something that is sustainable. I think it comes and goes in waves, and I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy for us to question ourselves and to make sure it keeps us honest, it keeps us reflecting and improving. So I don't think we need to the critic is the inner critic is useful, important, as long as it's taking a backseat to showing up and doing the work, no matter what.
Yeah, showing up and doing the work, even when we don't feel like we belong. I'm like creeping up slower. It's like the opposite of our performance when I was like creeping in too much. And now I'm like out the whole time here. I just got my face right on the side. I'm symmetrical now. This is an artwork. You can't get a whole one, just a half a one.
Just a halfie.
And she actually concludes this chapter with growth, kind of just speaking to the same sentiments there. And just remembering just to keep creating, keep writing, keep doing the ritual. And it'll become a ritual. And it's really hard right now. It's always hard even now. But it is so, so worth it. The pay dirt when it pays off. Speaking of which, I have actually laid out the cards right now.
Excellent.
I want to have a little bit of synchronicity in this. Do you want to pull the card, or do you want me to pull the card?
I think they're your cards, so
okay.
Your juju's in there.
My juju, what I like to do in this Speak Psychosomatic is I like to run my hand over the cards, and then when I feel a pull, that's what card I go to. I just wait for a sensation in my body for it too. It doesn't always happen through the hand. Sometimes it's in the head, like a headache. Right there. Ooh. 8 of Earth. I have a feeling what this is about, but I don't want to see what it is. I want to see what.
Can I look at it?
Yes. Sorry, just like put it away.
So this is either a cello or a bass.
I guess it depends on proportion, right?
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
This might be your card.
Yeah.
Apprenticeship, gaining knowledge, learning, employing a new craft or skill. This might be our card, guys. It's all of us. All right. Even matters of their craft have more to learn, even masters of their craft, not matters. That doesn't make any sense. And I eagerly embrace the opportunity to go deeper, develop a greater understanding, and find many ways to apply what I know. I acknowledge all I have learned and accomplished, the skills I have developed, and the goals I have reached. Now is the time to find new ways to apply what I know, to enhance my expertise. My beginner's awkwardness has melted away, and I know what I am doing now. I have the confidence to become more intimate with the work in all areas of my life. Dang. This is perfect for all of us. This is synchronicity at its heart right there. I really love this deck. I mean, this is definitely not a paid deal. None of this is a paid deal. But if you're new to tarot and you want to find something that is not so intimidating, I think the Good Tarot. I don't know anyone who hates the Good Tarot. It's
in the name.
It's a good deck. And not everything is completely positive, but it's just so centered around problem solving. I feel like the writer of the Good Tarot, Colette Baron Reed. I wonder if she knows Julia Cameron. I in my own mind, I have like a fantasy that they're BFFs.
Yeah. No, I mean, but you have definitely, given them a strong bond.
I'm going to bring them together.
Yeah.
I'm going to write letters to both of them saying, hey, do you know this person?
But that's the whole thing, right? The truth and the work, the good work that everybody's doing, it's all drawing from the same well. And
it's an endless well.
It is, and everyone can be drawing from it and should be, because it will be unique.
Such a simple way to tap it too.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to go pet Barley because he's clearly feeling very sad without us. Yes. I will not be here next week, but Sarah will be. She'll be taking over it all.
Yeah, we'll do the thing, just you and me.
This needs to be intimate. You get to feel like I feel in the first round on the other side. But tuning in, and please let's get commenting in the boxes below. I'm happy to engage and talk with you guys, as is Sarah. And thanks for coming into week 3. Thanks for showing up for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Enjoy. Write down those synchronicities. I'll see you next week.
I'm going to try and turn this off now. And touch the screen. Touch the screen. Let me do this. Oh, there's an X. Okay.